Coming up.
A report on federal government employees double dipping as contractors to the Liberal government. Another disturbing trend you uncovered in the ArriveCan audit. With the work still underway, so far 76 organizations in the core public administration have reported 140 federal employees who are double dipping as contractors to the Liberal government. If I recall, you were quite upset to discover 2 or 3 Office of the Auditor General employees were double dipping as well. Can you tell us how you became aware of these employees and what process unfolded once you were made aware? You will probably not be surprised by my next question. Since your last appearance, this committee has received more information about the National Capital Commission's $8 million barn doggle, including detailed blueprints. The $8 million barn does, in fact, have a basement. So we now have confirmation the infamous elevator does, in fact, go down, not up. Why the $8 million barn has an elevator is still a very outstanding question, and the secrecy surrounding it is very interesting.
Point of order.
Now, Ms. Shanahan.
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
It's a challenging task you have with the Liberal government's $480 billion in program spending and running an annual $40 billion deficit. I believe the work you've done to uncover the historic levels of corruption and fraud associated with the ArriveCan scandal will have a lasting legacy. Your recent report reminds me of the work of Canada's first female Auditor General, Sheila Fraser, whose report on the sponsorship scandal rocked Canada's political scene during the last Liberal regime. Auditor General Fraser stated the troubling transfer of hundreds of millions of dollars in sponsorship funds used highly questionable methods. She also referred to the Liberal sponsorship scandal as a pivotal event with a lasting impact and broke just about every rule in the book. Her quotes sound very familiar to your comments to this committee about ArriveCan. In a 2011 speech, Madam Fraser also criticized the truly shocking lack of improvements on First Nations reserves, and she said, and I quote, "I actually think it's quite tragic when you see that there is a population in this country that does not have the sort of basic services that Canadians take for granted." I've seen this up close as Minister of Aboriginal Affairs in my own home province of New Brunswick. Your recent reports on housing in First Nations communities and on policing show a lot of similarities to Auditor General Fraser's comments, which is very unfortunate to see a lack of progress over the past 9 years. The Office of the Auditor General has stated it is committed to improving socio-economic outcomes for Indigenous peoples by increasing opportunities for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis businesses in its procurement processes. For example, you have stated plans to award a minimum of 5% of the total value of all contracts to Indigenous businesses. Because of the egregious misuse of Indigenous set-asides your ArriveCan audit has uncovered, can I ask if you have considered taking a deeper look at the 5% program, and have you put in place a directive that your office not subcontract with Dalian Enterprises and David Yeo?
So I can start off by letting you know that we have never had contracts with Dalian Enterprises. We have a plan, as you stated, to help meet the 5% minimum target that the government has set. This past year, I would say, didn't achieve the levels we were hoping to achieve. And part of that was because, as a result of our audit work, we have introduced an extra layer of rigor, an extra layer of examination to ensure that the organizations that we contract with are truly Indigenous organizations. We don't want to just issue a contract to an organization that might be a joint venture and was awarded the contract just to meet a set-aside. We truly want to make sure that the work we're giving goes to Indigenous people. And so we're going to work hard at trying to meet our commitment, but it's more important for me to make sure that it's done in the right way. Based on what we found, we're also considering whether we want to audit this government-wide, and we haven't really landed on that yet.
Okay, appreciate that answer. Also this week, the Treasury Board of Canada's Secretariat provided this committee a report on federal government employees double dipping as contractors to the Liberal government. Another disturbing trend you uncovered in the ArriveCan audit. With the work still underway, so far 76 organizations in the core public administration have reported 140 federal employees who are double dipping as contractors to the Liberal government. If I recall, you were quite upset to discover 2 or 3 Office of the Auditor General employees were double dipping as well. Can you tell us how you became aware of these employees and what process unfolded once you were made aware?
So I'll ask Andrew to provide you a bit more details. What I can tell you is we're aware. We've continued to sort of look and run procedures internally. I can tell you that I'm aware of 5 cases within my organization, 3 where employees had contracts with other government departments, and 2 of our contractors who are either employees or contractors with other departments. And I'll ask Andrew if he can give you a bit more detail about that.
Yes, thank you. I would distinguish between employees who have come forward to disclose the fact that they may have external employment and that receive proper approval for that versus ones that don't. And the cases that the Auditor General was referring to were largely ones where people did not disclose that they had alternative employment. In one case, we found that there was an employee who had other employment and there was a problem because when we hired them, the secret clearance process signaled that there was a problem. In another case, PSPC advised us that there was an ongoing investigation involving one of our employees and a number of other departments. And in a third case, which is currently being considered, it was another case where it was brought to our attention. In terms of the contractors, one of them was identified in the PSPC disclosure about a month ago. Where there was 3 contractors working for a number of departments and agencies. And the last case was one that we uncovered because we had identified signals that raised red flags. In all of those cases, we have taken prompt and immediate action. We've undertaken investigations where appropriate. And in the ones that have been completed, those contractors either don't work for us anymore or the employees have been, their employment has been terminated.
I'll ask questions on the relationship between, the incident that several members have already spoken to in regards to what was reported in the public about 2 employees. You spoke, Mr. Hayes also spoke about some of that important work. You also described the annual process that is required for employees. Was it through that annual process and in the reporting of documents that they found out that you were made aware? Did they declare that through this process of annual review, or did your office have another tool to which you were able to review that?
So the 3 employees and the 2 contractors that we mentioned, it was not through our annual process. And as Andrew distinguished, there are employees who have come forward and told us about other employment opportunities that they have, and we've had a dialogue and determined that it isn't a conflict of interest, but we have this well documented. So that would be part of the annual process that happens. Or even if your situation changes, you should be talking with your manager more regularly than that. These 5 cases, people did not disclose to us. And it's because of that seriousness that calls into question, ethics and value judgments that we launched an investigation. We were first made aware. So the first one, we were made aware by PSPC about it. The second one, we were actually hiring an employee, and when we reached out to, I believe it was PSPC as well, to transfer their security clearance as we were initiating our security process, that's when we found out that the security clearance of the individual had been revoked. And this, for me, highlights part of the problem that needs to be addressed government-wide. There's a gap in information, and there's this very siloed approach, and there is valuable information that was held by another department that mine did not know about, and we came across it because we asked. And somehow we have to fill that gap across the public service so that we not only rely on awareness and declaration by employees, but that we also have information that we use to vet and challenge what we're hearing or not hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This week, the Treasury Board Secretariat provided the Public Accounts Committee with a shocking summary of the contracts that GC Strategies, Dalian Enterprises, and Coradix Technology Consulting have had with the federal government. There were 1,108 contracts in total with a value of more than $914 million. Just 3 companies closing in on $1 billion is very concerning to us, but not apparently to the government, especially on top of the more than $120 million in untendered contracts the Liberal government has handed to McKinsey and Company. Can I ask your thoughts on the massive amounts of questionable contracts to outside consultants, and when do you expect your McKinsey review will be completed?
So my office is in the process of clearing the facts with the entities involved in our professional services contract. It is a lengthy one. There are 10 departments and 10 Crown corporations included in that. Our goal is very soon to have that tabled before Parliament rises for summer break. So that is our goal, so that the Parliament has the opportunity to hold some hearings on it. What are my views on using external consultants? I think that it matters. At times it's needed, and at times there should be a bigger challenge on it. For example, my office will use a professional service contract to supplement when we have a peak and we don't have staff to do all of the audit work that we might need, or we might use a professional service contract to get expertise, like actuarial expertise, where we don't have enough work to keep someone busy 365 days a year. So at times it makes sense, and at other times I think there's bigger scrutiny that's needed on the use of contractors.
Thank you for the answer. You will probably not be surprised by my next question. Since your last appearance, this committee has received more information about the National Capital Commission's $8 million barn doggle, including detailed blueprints. The $8 million barn does, in fact, have a basement. So we now have confirmation the infamous elevator does, in fact, go down, not up. Why the $8 million barn has an elevator is still a very outstanding question, and the secrecy surrounding it is very interesting.
Point of order.
Now, Ms. Shanahan, you are next. What is the point of order? Citing the standing orders,
Relevance.
please. You know I give latitude. This is an issue this committee has studied. I would ask everyone to come to order, please.
Can I finish, John?
Yes, you have the floor, and we have been so good with the points of order this time. So, Mr.
Really
Stewart, you've got 30 seconds.
From the blueprints, we learned the $8 million barn does have a car wash bay, a laundry room, 2 washrooms, and believe it or not, a doghouse. Yes, a doghouse. Whose dog? Is it registered? Who owns it? What kind is it? Have you considered doing any further audits of the super secretive National Capital Commission, especially in light of this new information?
I believe in previous testimony, I've told the committee that this is a capital project that the NCC's board approved and in their annual plan, and we don't usually target individual capital asset acquisitions within an organization.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I want to thank the Auditor General again, her entire team, for appearing in front of our committee for the it's the wisdom of the responses that we get. But, Chair, I think you'll agree that whatever we hear from the Auditor General, whether it's through the reports or in answer to questions that members bring up, that the answers are measured, they're balanced, there is a lot of work that goes behind those answers. They're not gratuitous. They're not looking for sensationalist headlines. They're not trying to mislead Canadians. We're getting the right time of day when we hear from the team at the Auditor General's office and the Auditor General herself. And in that line, just some of the things that you've said today, Auditor General, around the chronic underfunding of IT projects, which lead to big trouble, as we've seen later on, problematic contracts later on. This idea that being penny wise and pound foolish is somehow the way to handle public finances. We've heard this time and time again, and we've seen this in previous governments. Cheap. It gets what cheap buys, and it's just a disservice to the Canadians, and to the use of public taxpayers' money. And what you said just earlier about piling on of regulations is not necessarily the way to go either. Doubling work being done by different agencies, yourselves, the ombuds, the RCMP, that this is not the way to go. But Conservatives have been quick, and other members have been quick to criticize any institution or office that does not push a narrative that they support. Can you confirm for Canadians here today that your office is free from political interference?
I can tell you that my office, the foundational element is being independent. And that's why it's important that I can choose who we audit, when we audit, and what we audit. And I will always ensure that we have that right, and it is what makes the Auditor General's office unique. I'm always happy to listen to the concerns of parliamentarians, whether they be from the House or the Senate, as we consider what to audit, but it is really important that we are not influenced. And since my tenure, I can tell you that we have freely chosen what we have wanted to audit.
But how does it affect your messaging, Auditor General, when your words are taken out of context time and time again? And we can think of any number of reports that we've had here, but the latest being, of course, around ArriveCan and the fact that you did in an earlier report find that there was enduring value, that there was value for money in replacing a paper-based system. But in the latest report, of course, that there were gross inadequacies in the documentation and rules cannot be thrown out the window. Can you talk to us about how you address that kind of misinformation around your reports?
I think that, once my reports are made public, they are on public record, and any individual can use them as they would like. This is why I appreciate that when we come to committee, especially here in the Public Accounts Committee, that we appear when departments appear, so that we can make sure that we can tell you what we found and make sure that we can articulate clearly what our report says if it's being misunderstood. We strive very hard to make our reports easy to understand, but there is always the chance that someone misinterprets something. So I appreciate the amount of committee appearances we have before this committee, before other House committees, and before the Senate, so that we can help everyone understand our work so that they can hold government to account.